Queen Vareth stood in her throne room looking at the stars through the giant windows. Her empire had ruled over hundreds of worlds for 3,000 years. The Zinthari people were known across the galaxy as powerful warriors and masters of the mind. They could move objects without touching them and read thoughts from across great distances. Every Zinthari child was born with these gifts. Every child except one. Princess Lisa was the youngest of the Queen's 5 daughters. Her 4 older sisters were perfect examples of Zinthari power. They could crush metal with their minds and speak to each other across space without words. They commanded respect wherever they went. But Lisa had been born different. She had no mental powers at all. She could not move even a feather with her mind. She could not hear the thoughts of others or send her own thoughts to them. In Zinthari society, this made her worthless. The nobles whispered about her behind their hands. Her sisters pretended she did not exist. Even her own mother could barely look at her without feeling shame. Lisa had spent her entire life trying to prove her worth in other ways. She studied languages and learned to speak 7 of them perfectly. She became an expert in engineering and technology. She read every book she could find about how things worked. But none of it mattered to her people. Without mental powers, she was nothing. The Queen had tried to hide her youngest daughter from public view. She sent Lisa to distant palaces and kept her away from important ceremonies. But Lisa was still a princess. People knew she existed, and her existence was an embarrassment to the royal family. Then the humans made contact. Their simple metal ships appeared at the edge of Zinthari space. They sent messages of peace and friendship. They wanted to trade and learn from the great Zinthari Empire. The Queen and her council found the humans amusing. These creatures had barely left their own star system. They had no mental powers and their technology was primitive. They were like children playing with toys. But the humans were persistent. They kept sending diplomats and making offers. They clearly wanted an alliance very badly. The Queen saw an opportunity. She could get rid of her embarrassing daughter and appear generous to these primitive creatures at the same time. The Queen called her council together. "We shall form an alliance with the humans through marriage," she announced. "Princess Lisa will marry one of their diplomats." The council members made clicking sounds with their mouths to show approval. It was a perfect solution. The useless princess would be sent away to live among the primitives. The Queen would appear wise and generous for offering a royal marriage. And if the marriage failed, nobody important would care. On Earth, the news of the marriage offer caused great excitement. The governments of Earth had been trying to build relationships with advanced alien species. The Zinthari were the most powerful empire they had encountered. A royal marriage would cement their alliance and give Earth access to advanced technology. The diplomatic corps carefully selected the human who would marry the alien princess. His name was Jake Murphy. He was 30 years old and had served in the military before becoming a diplomat. He was smart, capable, and good at understanding different cultures. He was also single and willing to take on difficult assignments. The government leaders thought he was perfect for this mission. Jake sat in a meeting room looking at a picture of his future wife. Princess Lisa looked almost human. Her skin had a light purple color and she had glowing marks on her temples, but otherwise she could have passed for human. She was beautiful in a strange way. But Jake knew this marriage was not about love or attraction. It was about politics. His superior officer explained the situation. The princess has no psychic powers. Among her people, that makes her defective. They are basically throwing her away by marrying her to you. Jake felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger that both governments were using them. Sympathy for a woman rejected by her own family. And worry about what kind of life they would have together. "So we're both pawns in a political game," he said. "That's how diplomacy works, Murphy. But think about what this means for Earth. We get an alliance with the most powerful empire in this sector. We get access to their technology. And you get to be the first human to marry an alien princess. That's going to look good in the history books." Jake was not sure he cared about history books, but he understood his duty. He had signed up to serve Earth however he was needed. If that meant marrying an alien princess he had never met, then that was what he would do. The wedding was arranged to take place on a neutral space station between Earth and the Zinthari homeworld. Both sides sent representatives. For the Zinthari, it was a minor event. For Earth, it was the most important diplomatic moment in human history. Lisa prepared for the wedding in a small room on the space station. She wore traditional Zinthari bonding silks that shimmered with colors that changed as she moved. Her servants helped her dress without speaking to her. They had always treated her with polite coldness. She was a princess by birth, but not by ability. She looked at herself in the mirror and felt the weight of shame pressing down on her. Her mother had made it clear this was an exile. She was being sent away to live with primitives because she was not good enough to stay with her own people. The human she was marrying probably pitied her, or maybe he resented being forced to marry someone everyone said was worthless. Jake arrived at the space station in his formal military uniform. He walked through corridors filled with aliens from a dozen different species. Some looked at him with curiosity. Others ignored him completely. He felt very small and very human in a galaxy full of beings more powerful than him. The ceremony hall was large and cold. Zinthari nobles stood on one side wearing their formal robes. Earth diplomats stood on the other side in their best suits. In the middle was a raised platform where the ceremony would take place. Jake walked up onto the platform and waited. His heart was beating fast. He had faced combat situations that felt less frightening than this moment. Then the doors opened and Princess Lissa entered the hall. She walked slowly toward the platform. Her head was held high, but Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. She climbed the steps and stood facing him. Up close, he could see that her eyes were a deep violet color. They held sadness and fear that she was trying hard to hide. The ceremony master began speaking in both Zinthari and English. Jake barely heard the words. He was looking at Lisa and seeing not an alien princess, but a woman who looked as trapped as he felt. When the ceremony master told them to join hands, Jake reached out gently. Lisa placed her hands in his. Her skin was warm and her hands were shaking slightly. Jake leaned closer and whispered so only she could hear. "Looks like we're stuck with each other." Lisa looked surprised. She had expected coldness or pity. Instead, this human sounded almost friendly. "I will try not to be too much trouble for you," she whispered back in careful English. "Hey, we're partners now, right? We'll figure this out together." For the first time in months, Lisa felt a small spark of something other than despair. Maybe this human was not as primitive as her people believed. Maybe there was hope after all. The ceremony master completed the ritual. By the laws of both their peoples, Lissa and Jake were now married. The Zinthari nobles left quickly, having fulfilled their obligation. The Earth diplomats congratulated Jake with enthusiasm that felt forced. Soon the couple was alone on the platform. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. "Now we go to Earth, to our home. It's not a palace, but it's comfortable." "I have never had a home," Lissa said quietly. "I have only had places I was allowed to stay." Jake felt his heart break a little for this woman who had been rejected by everyone who should have loved her. "Well, you have a home now, and a husband who is going to do his best to be a good partner to you." Lissa looked into his eyes and saw that he meant what he said. This human had honor. He would keep his word. It was more than anyone from her own people had ever offered her. They left the space station together and boarded the ship that would take them to Earth. As they traveled through space toward her new home, Lissa looked back one last time at the stars where her people lived. She was leaving behind everything she had ever known. But perhaps, she thought, that was not such a bad thing after all. The first weeks on Earth were harder than Lissa had expected. Everything felt wrong. The gravity was heavier than on her homeworld, making her tired after just a few hours of activity. The air smelled strange, full of chemical scents from the millions of humans and their machines. The sun was too bright and too warm. Even the sounds were overwhelming. Cars, planes, voices, music, all mixing together in a constant noise that never stopped. Jake and Lissa lived in a small apartment in Washington. By Zinthari standards, it was tiny and plain. There were no crystal walls that sang when touched. No floating gardens. No servants. Just simple rooms with simple furniture. Lissa felt like she had fallen from the sky into a box. Jake tried his best to help her adjust. When she struggled with the heavy gravity, he showed her exercises to build her strength. When she felt overwhelmed by all the noise, he took her to quiet parks where they could walk among trees. When she missed the food from her homeworld, he searched the entire city to find ingredients that tasted similar. But the hardest part was the loneliness. On her homeworld, even though Lissa could not use telepathy herself, she had always been surrounded by the gentle hum of other minds communicating. It was like background music that she could feel but not join. On Earth, there was only silence in her head. just her own thoughts with nothing else around them. Jake noticed her sadness one evening when he found her standing by the window looking at the stars. "You miss home," he said. "I miss what I never had," Lissa replied. "I could not join the mental connection, but at least I could feel it around me. Here there is only emptiness when we can talk, though, out loud like we're doing now. Tell me things. Help me understand you better." At first, Lisa gave short, polite answers to his questions. That was how she had been taught to speak to those below her station. But Jake kept asking questions with genuine curiosity. He wanted to know about her childhood, her studies, her feelings. Nobody had ever cared about her feelings before. Slowly, Lisa began to open up. She told him about the crystal gardens on her homeworld that made beautiful sounds when the solar wind touched them. She told him about watching her sisters practice their mental powers while she sat alone in the library reading books. She told him about the day she realized she would never be what her people wanted her to be. "I am broken," she said one night over dinner. "That is why they sent me away." Jake put down his fork and looked at her seriously. "I don't think you're broken. I think maybe your people are wrong about what makes someone valuable." "What do you mean?" "Look, you learned 7 languages because you couldn't read minds, right? You studied engineering because you couldn't just move things with your thoughts. You actually understand how things work. Your sisters probably never bothered to learn any of that because they didn't need to. So who is really smarter?" Lisa had never thought about it that way. Her lack of powers had always been seen as pure weakness. But Jake was right. She had developed other skills to compensate. Skills that her sisters did not have. "My mother would not agree with you," she said. "Maybe not. But I do. And you're here with me now, not with them. So my opinion is the one that matters." Lisa felt warmth spread through her chest. It was a strange feeling. She realized after a moment that it was happiness. She was happy. Meanwhile, Jake was learning disturbing things at his job. He worked at the State Department helping manage Earth's relationship with the Zinthari. The more he learned, the less he liked. The Zinthari gave Earth technology, but only old and outdated designs. They advised Earth's military, but clearly looked down on human soldiers. They spoke of alliance, but all their actions suggested they saw humans as inferior. One evening, Jake came home looking troubled. Lissa could see it in his face. "What is wrong?" she asked. "Your people, they don't really see us as equals, do they? This whole alliance thing is just them keeping us under control while they decide what to do with us." Lisa was quiet for a long time. She had known this truth but had not planned to share it. She had been taught since childhood never to reveal Zinthari secrets to lesser species. But Jake was her husband now, and he deserved honesty. "You are right," she said finally. "The Zinthari have never made true alliances. They only conquer or control. Earth is being tested. If you prove useful, you will become servants of the Empire. If you prove troublesome, you will be controlled by force." Jake felt cold fear run through him. "We need to tell people. The government needs to know the truth. They will not believe you without proof. And even if they did, what could they do? The Zinthari fleet could destroy your world easily. One message from my mother and thousands of ships would come. So we just give up? Accept being slaves? No." Lisa stood and walked to him. "We prepare, we learn. We make Earth stronger in secret, and we wait for the right moment. Jake, there is something else you should know. The reason I was seen as useless was not only because I lacked powers. I also questioned things that should not be questioned. I asked why we must conquer instead of cooperate. I wondered if there were better ways. Among my people, such thoughts are considered dangerous and weak, but here we call that wisdom," Jake said. "Yes. Perhaps that is why I was meant to come here. Perhaps I can help your people prepare for what is coming." Over the following months, their partnership deepened. Lissa began working as a consultant for the space agency. She helped human engineers understand principles of advanced technology. She could not simply give them Zinthari designs. That would be noticed and stopped. But she could guide them to discover things on their own. Jake was amazed by how smart she was. She looked at a human reactor design and immediately saw 3 ways to improve it. She examined a rocket engine and explained a theory that could make it twice as efficient. The engineers she worked with began calling her a genius. At home, Jake and Lissa settled into a comfortable routine. They cooked meals together, with Jake teaching her about human food and Lissa teaching him about Zinthari cuisine. They watched movies, with Lissa fascinated by human stories and emotions. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. One night, Lissa asked Jake about his past. "Why did you become a diplomat?" "You were a soldier before. I was. I fought in a war that I thought was necessary. But after it was over, I saw all the destruction and death, and I wondered if there had been a better way. I realized that talking, understanding other people, preventing wars before they start, that was more important than fighting them. You have wisdom too, Lissa said softly. Maybe we're both wise in our own ways. Maybe that's why this is working. As time passed, something unexpected happened. The marriage that had started as a political arrangement was becoming real. Jake found himself caring deeply about Lissa's happiness. He loved the way she got excited when she learned something new. He loved her laugh, which came more easily now. He loved how she looked at the world with curiosity. Instead of arrogance, Lissa found herself feeling things she had never felt before: safety, belonging, affection. Jake made her feel valued for who she was, not for what powers she should have had. He listened to her ideas and treated them with respect. He made her laugh with his human humor. He held her hand when she felt sad. Neither of them spoke about these feelings at first. They both knew the marriage had been arranged. They both knew it had been meant as a way to get rid of an unwanted princess and gain an alien alliance. Admitting that real feelings had developed seemed risky somehow. But one evening after they had been married for almost a year, Jake came home to find Lissa crying. She was looking at a message from her homeworld. Her oldest sister was getting married to a high noble. The message had not been sent to Lissa directly. She had only found out by accident when checking diplomatic communications at work. "They did not even tell me," she said through tears. "I am so far beneath their notice now that they do not bother to inform me of family events." Jake sat beside her and put his arm around her shoulders. "Their loss. They threw away someone incredible because they were too stupid to see your worth. But I see it. Every single day I see how amazing you are." Lissa turned to look at him. "Why are you so kind to me? You did not ask for this marriage any more than I did. At first I was just trying to do my duty, make the best of a situation neither of us wanted. But somewhere along the way that changed. Lissa, I care about you a lot, more than I probably should for an arranged marriage. I care about you too," Lissa admitted. "I never expected to be happy on Earth, but I am happy. Because of you." They sat together in silence for a while, both processing this admission. Then Jake spoke again. "We should probably send a gift to your sister anyway. Show them we're doing fine without them." Lissa managed a small smile. "Yes, let us send something beautiful and expensive. Make them wonder how we afforded it." "That's my girl," Jake said, and realized he meant it completely. She was his partner, his friend, and something more. This arranged marriage had become real love, and neither of them had seen it coming. 2 years into their marriage, everything changed. Jake and Lissa had moved from the apartment to a small house in Virginia with a yard and a garden. Lissa had planted some earth flowers and was surprised to find she enjoyed watching them grow. Her work at the space agency had become more important, and she spent her days helping humans understand concepts that had taken the Zinthari centuries to develop. Their relationship had grown stronger. They were no longer just partners, but truly in love. Jake could not imagine his life without Lissa. She had become his best friend, his closest confidant, and the person he trusted most in the universe. It happened on a Tuesday morning in spring. Jake was making coffee in the kitchen when he heard a loud crash from upstairs. He dropped his mug and ran toward the sound, his heart pounding with fear. He found Lissa lying on the bedroom floor. Her body was rigid and shaking. Her eyes were open but glowing with a strange inner light that made them look like violet stars. "Lissa." He fell to his knees beside her, not knowing what to do. Her mouth opened and a voice came out that did not sound entirely like hers. It had extra tones in it, harmonics that seemed to vibrate in the air. "It awakens. After all this time, it finally awakens." Then the light faded from her eyes and she went limp. Jake caught her before her head hit the floor again. "Lissa, can you hear me? What's happening?" She took a deep, shaking breath. "I do not know. Something inside me, something changing." Jake called for an ambulance, but Lissa stopped him. "No. No human doctors. They cannot help with this. It is Zinthari biology. I need time." Over the next few days, Lissa experienced more episodes. Each time she would freeze, and that strange light would fill her eyes. Jake stayed by her side, frightened and helpless. He wanted to contact the Zinthari, but Lisa refused to let him. "If my mother learns of this, she will demand I return home immediately," Lisa said. "I cannot go back there. Not now. Not ever." Gradually, the episodes became less violent but more controlled. Lisa began to understand what was happening to her. Her mental powers, dormant for her entire life, were finally emerging. But they were not like the powers her sisters had. They were something completely different. "I can see patterns," she explained to Jake one evening. They sat together in their living room while she tried to put her new abilities into words. Not just patterns in objects or people, but patterns in everything: systems, relationships, causes, and effects. "When I look at a machine, I do not just see what it does. I understand why it works that way and how it could work better. When I look at people, I see their connections to each other, their societies, the invisible threads that bind them together." "That sounds incredibly powerful," Jake said. "It is. More powerful than anything my sisters can do. They can move objects with their minds or read surface thoughts. But I can understand entire systems. I can see how things work at a fundamental level." "Jake," I looked at the Zinthari Empire with these new eyes, and I saw something terrifying. "What did you see?" "I saw that it is failing. The Empire is built on a foundation that cannot support its weight. Conquest and control work for a while, but they create tensions that eventually tear things apart. I can see exactly how and when it will collapse, and my mother must never know this." Jake understood immediately. "If they find out what you can really do, they'll either use you or kill you." "Yes. This power lets me see the flaws in their system. That makes me incredibly dangerous to them. But Queen Vareth had her own sources of information. News traveled from Earth to the Zinthari homeworld that Princess Lissa had manifested powers. The Queen expected to hear that her useless daughter had finally developed weak standard abilities. Instead, the report spoke of unusual manifestations and strange episodes. A royal message arrived at the house. Lissa was ordered to return home immediately for evaluation by Zinthari medical experts. The message made it clear that this was not a request. It was a command. "I will not go," Lisa told Jake firmly. "If they examine me and discover what I can truly do, everything we have built here will be destroyed. They will take me away and use my abilities to make their empire stronger, and Earth will lose any chance of preparing for what is coming." Jake contacted his superiors at the State Department. They arranged an emergency meeting with the top levels of government. In a secure room deep underground, Lisa explained the situation to generals and politicians. "My mother will not accept a simple refusal," Lisa said. "She is the queen. She expects obedience. If we refuse, she may see it as rebellion. She may send ships." General Peter Hoffman, a serious man who had been warning about the Zinthari threat for years, spoke up. "Can we fight them if they come?" "No," Lisa said bluntly. "Not in direct combat. Your technology is improving quickly thanks to the work we have done, but you are still decades behind the Zinthari military. If they wanted to conquer Earth, they could do it in a matter of weeks." The room fell silent. Everyone present understood the gravity of the situation. Then an aide suggested something. "What if we tell them she's pregnant? That the pregnancy is complicated because of the hybrid nature of the child? That she needs to stay on Earth for medical reasons?" It was a lie, but it might work. The Zinthari had never encountered a human Zinthari hybrid before. They would not know what complications might arise. And Queen Vareth, despite her coldness, would care about a potential heir to the royal line. "It could buy us time," Jake said. "But eventually they will demand proof or demand her return," Lisa pointed out. "We would have perhaps a year at most." "Then we use that year to prepare," General Hoffman said. "You've been helping us advance our technology. We need to do more. We need to be ready for the day when the Zinthari show their true intentions." The message was sent to Queen Vareth. Princess Lissa was indeed pregnant, but the pregnancy was delicate due to the mixing of two different species. She needed to remain on Earth under careful medical supervision. It would be dangerous for her to travel. The Queen's response took 3 days to arrive. It was cold and formal, but she accepted the explanation. She even sent gifts for her future grandchild. But Lissa could read between the lines of her mother's message. The Queen was suspicious. She did not believe everything she was being told. "We have bought time, but not safety," Lissa told Jake that night. "Then we make the most of the time we have." And they did. Lissa began working around the clock with Earth's best scientists and engineers. Her new abilities let her see connections and possibilities that no human could perceive alone. She guided them toward breakthroughs in energy production, ship design, and weapons technology. She never gave them Xinthari technology directly. That would be noticed. Instead, she showed them principles and let them develop their own applications. The humans proved to be remarkably creative. They took the concepts Lissa provided and developed, solutions that even the Xinthari had never considered. They thought in ways that her people did not. They took risks and tried unusual approaches. Their chaos and unpredictability, which the Xinthari saw as weakness, was actually a strength. "Your people are strange," Lissa told Jake one evening. "The Xinthari have optimized every aspect of their society. Every person knows their role. Every system runs efficiently. But you humans, you are always changing things, questioning things, rebelling against your own rules. It should make you weak, but somehow, it makes you strong." "Maybe that's because we're still evolving, still learning," Jake suggested. "We don't think we have all the answers like your people do." "Yes, and that may be what saves you when the time comes." Months passed. The lie about Lisa's pregnancy became truth. She discovered she was actually expecting a child. The news filled them both with joy and fear. Joy because they truly loved each other and wanted to build a family. Fear because this child would be something new in the galaxy. A bridge between two species. A potential target for those who feared change. Jake held Lissa close the night they confirmed the pregnancy. "We're going to be parents," he said with wonder. "Our child will be part of both our worlds," Lissa said. "She will face challenges we cannot imagine." "She? I can sense it somehow with my new abilities. We are having a daughter. Then we'll teach her to be strong, to be proud of both sides of her heritage, and we'll protect her from anyone who tries to use her." Lissa rested her head on Jake's shoulder. "I was sent to Earth as punishment, as a way to dispose of a useless daughter. But being here has given me everything that matters. A purpose, a home, love, and now a family. My mother thought she was getting rid of me. Instead, she gave me the greatest gift possible. Do you think she knows yet that her plan backfired?" "Not yet. But she will. And when she does, I do not know how she will react. That is what frightens me. We have perhaps 6 more months before she demands my return, or demands proof that we cannot provide. 6 months to prepare Earth for what may come." Jake kissed the top of her head. "Then we make these 6 months count. We prepare, we plan, and we hope that when your mother finally comes, we're ready for her." Outside their window, the stars shone bright and cold in the night sky. Among those stars, Queen Vareth sat on her throne, looking at reports about her useless daughter. The reports spoke of technological advances on Earth, of unusual activities, of a human Xinthari child soon to be born. The next 2 years moved quickly. Lissa gave birth to a daughter they named Sophie. The little girl was beautiful, with features that blended human and Xinthari traits perfectly. She looked human except for the faint purple tint to her skin and the glowing marks on her temples that appeared when she was emotional. But what made Sophie truly remarkable was her mind. Even as an infant, Sophie was incredibly aware. She learned to speak at 6 months old. By her first birthday, she could hold complex conversations. By age 2, she was reading books meant for much older children. She possessed both her mother's pattern-seeing abilities and something uniquely her own. She could sense emotions and connections between people in ways that went beyond either species' normal capabilities. Queen Vareth sent messages regularly, demanding to see her granddaughter. She wanted Sophie brought to the Xinthari homeworld to be educated properly in the ways of the Empire. Each time, Lissa refused with polite explanations about Sophie's unique biology and her need to grow up in Earth's environment. Each time, the Queen's responses became colder and more impatient. Jake continued his work at the State Department while also helping Lisa with her secret projects. Earth's defensive capabilities had grown significantly. New ships had been built using principles Lisa had helped develop. Energy weapons that could challenge Zinthari shields were being tested. Most importantly, strategies had been developed for fighting an enemy with superior technology and psychic powers. General Hoffman had taken Lisa's warnings seriously. He understood that Earth could not beat the Zinthari in a direct fight, but they could make any invasion costly enough that the Zinthari would think twice. Guerrilla tactics, hidden weapons, unpredictable strategies. Earth was preparing to be the galaxy's most difficult target, but they all knew that time was running out. Lisa could sense her mother's growing suspicion with each message. The Queen knew something was wrong. She knew her daughter was hiding things. It was only a matter of time before she came to investigate personally. The crisis arrived on a cold morning in November. Lisa was working at her home office when alarms started going off at the Space Defense Headquarters. A Zinthari battle fleet had entered the solar system without warning or permission. It was a massive show of force with 50 warships, including the Queen's personal flagship. Jake received an emergency call and rushed home. He found Lisa standing in their living room, holding 4-year-old Sophie in her arms, staring at a screen showing the approaching fleet. "She's here," Lisa said quietly. "My mother has come herself. This is not a normal diplomatic visit. She is making a statement." "What kind of statement?" "That she is the power here, that Earth exists only because she allows it, and that she will no longer accept delays or excuses about seeing me and Sophie." A message came through from the flagship. Queen Vareth demanded that Princess Lisa and the child present themselves on a neutral orbital platform within 12 hours. Any delay would be considered an act of rebellion against the Zinthari Empire. The governments of Earth went into emergency sessions. Some wanted to refuse the demand to stand up to the alien queen. Others argued that refusing would mean war, and Earth was not ready for that. General Hoffman advised compromise. Let Lisa meet with her mother, but under controlled conditions with human security present. Lisa agreed, though she knew it was dangerous. "My mother respects only 2 things, power and cleverness. We must show her both without provoking her into violence." Jake insisted on going with her. "You're not facing her alone. We're partners, remember? We face things together." They traveled to the orbital platform with a small diplomatic team. Sophie came with them, her small hand gripping her mother's tightly. The child seemed to understand the seriousness of the situation despite her young age. The platform was large and cold, built for meetings between different species. Windows showed Earth below, beautiful and blue. Human security forces stationed themselves around the room, trying to look confident while knowing their weapons would be useless against Zinthari powers. Queen Vareth arrived with her royal guard. She materialized in the center of the platform using Zinthari teleportation technology. She was even more imposing in person than in holographic messages. Nearly 8 feet tall with deep purple skin and 4 eyes that glowed with power, her presence filled the room with an almost physical weight. Lisa stood straight, not bowing, though tradition demanded it. Jake stood beside her and Sophie stood in front of them both, looking at her grandmother without fear. "Daughter," the Queen said in a voice like thunder, "you have forgotten your place." "No, Mother," Lisa replied calmly. "I have found my place, here with my family on a world that values what I can offer. You are always the weak one, always emotional and impractical. It seems these primitives have made you worse instead of better." Jake stepped forward slightly. "With respect, Your Majesty, perhaps we've simply helped her become who she was meant to be." The Queen's 4 eyes focused on Jake like targeting lasers. The human speaks. "Tell me, creature, do you truly believe your species is equal to mine? We have ruled hundreds of worlds while your people were still learning to make fire. We don't need to be equal in age to be equal in value," Jake replied. His voice was steady even though his heart was racing. "And maybe your age is the problem. Maybe you've forgotten how to grow because you think you already know everything." A dangerous silence filled the room. The Queen's guards shifted, ready to defend her if this human's words were considered an insult. But Queen Vareth raised a hand to stop them. She was studying Jake with new interest. "You have courage, at least. That is more than I expected from your kind." "We have more than courage," Lisa said. "We have potential. The Zinthari have become stagnant, trapped in old patterns. You conquer, because that is what you have always done, not because it is the best path forward." But humanity is still young, still changing, still discovering. That makes them more dangerous than you realize. Dangerous? The Queen's voice rose. You dare suggest these primitives could threaten my empire? I suggest that trying to conquer them would cost you more than you would gain. Mother, I can see patterns now. My powers finally awakened, but not in the way you expected. I can perceive the truth of systems and societies. And I can see that your empire is straining under its own weight. Too many conquered worlds. Too much resentment. Too many resources spent maintaining control. If you add Earth to that burden, especially Earth with its unpredictable humans who will never accept subjugation quietly, you may tip the balance toward collapse. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Lisa had just revealed that she possessed powers and not weak ones. The question now was how the Queen would react. Sophie chose that moment to step forward. The small child walked right up to her grandmother, showing no fear of the massive alien ruler. Grandmother, why do you think power means being feared? Would it not be better to be respected, to have friends instead of servants? Queen Varath looked down at her granddaughter. Child, you are too young to understand the ways of empires. Maybe I am young, but I understand something you have forgotten. I can feel connections between people, between worlds. Not just control and obedience, but real connections built on trust and cooperation. That kind of connection is stronger than any conquest. Sophie closed her eyes and something remarkable happened. Everyone on the platform suddenly felt a gentle touch in their minds. It was not invasive like Zinthari telepathy usually was. It was warm and welcoming like an offered hand. Sophie was showing them how she saw the world. The beautiful web of connections between all living things, the potential for harmony if people chose cooperation over control. The Queen staggered slightly, caught off guard. Her guards moved to support her, but she waved them away. She was staring at Sophie with an expression that might have been shock or might have been wonder. What is this? She whispered. A gift, Sophie said simply, opening her eyes. The gift of seeing what could be instead of only what has been. Queen Varath looked from her granddaughter to her daughter, to the human who had married into her family. She saw Lisa standing tall and confident, no longer the shamed outcast, but a woman who had found her true strength. She saw Jake standing protectively beside his wife, a primitive creature who somehow had the courage to challenge a galactic ruler. And she saw Sophie, a child who embodied the potential of two species working together. You were never useless, the Queen said slowly to Lisa. I see that now. Your lack of standard powers forced you to develop abilities that may be far more valuable. You can see truths that I have been blind to. Does this mean you will leave Earth in peace? Jake asked, hardly daring to hope. It means I will consider alternatives to conquest, the Queen replied carefully. But do not mistake this for weakness. Earth must prove it is worth more as an ally than as a subject. You must show that cooperation brings greater benefits than control. General Hoffman, watching from Earth, immediately sent proposals for technology exchanges, trade agreements, and joint scientific projects, all designed to show that a true partnership with Earth would be valuable to the Zinthari Empire. The meeting lasted for hours. By the end, a tentative agreement had been reached. 5 years passed after Queen Varath's visit to Earth. Those 5 years changed everything. The trial alliance between Earth and the Zinthari Empire grew slowly but steadily into something real. It was not easy. There were setbacks and arguments. Some Zinthari nobles refused to accept humans as equals. Some human leaders distrusted the aliens who had once planned to conquer them, but progress continued. Lisa became the bridge that made it all possible. She worked tirelessly, traveling between Earth and the Zinthari homeworld, using her unique abilities to find solutions that satisfied both sides. She could see the patterns in both cultures and identify ways they could work together, without either side feeling they had surrendered their values. The technology exchanges proved beneficial to both species. Earth gained centuries of knowledge that helped them advance rapidly. But the Zinthari also gained something they had not expected. Human creativity and unpredictable thinking led to innovations that the rigid Zinthari system had never produced. Human engineers looked at Zinthari technology and found ways to improve it that no Zinthari had considered. One example became famous across both worlds. The Zinthari had shared their plasma reactor design with Earth. It was good technology, efficient and reliable. But human engineers, guided by Lisa's insights, redesigned it completely. The human version was 30% more efficient, used cheaper materials, and was easier to maintain. When the Zinthari tested the human design, they were forced to admit it was superior. This pattern repeated in many areas. The Zinthari had optimized their technology over thousands of years, but they had also become stuck in fixed ways of thinking. Humans, newer to advanced technology, thought in fresh and unexpected ways. Together, they could accomplish more than either species could alone. Queen Vareth watched these developments with mixed feelings. Her pride struggled against the evidence before her eyes. She had ruled for centuries believing the Zinthari were supreme in all ways. Admitting that primitives could teach her people anything was difficult. But she was also intelligent enough to recognize opportunity when she saw it. The Queen made an announcement that shocked the entire empire. She was creating a new department of government called the Council of Synthesis. Its purpose was to find ways to cooperate with other species rather than conquer them. And she named Princess Lissa as its first director. The appointment caused controversy. Many Zinthari nobles objected to giving such power to the daughter who had been cast out as useless. But the Queen silenced them with a simple statement. "My daughter sees what we have been blind to. She understands that true power comes not from controlling others but from working with them. Those who cannot accept this are welcome to retire." Several nobles did retire rather than adapt to the new way of thinking, but others, especially younger Zinthari, embraced the changes. They had grown tired of the old ways and were excited by the possibilities of genuine cooperation with other species. Lissa and Jake now spent their time traveling between worlds. Sophie came with them, growing into a remarkable child. At age 9, she already spoke 6 languages fluently and showed abilities that amazed both species. She could sense the emotional states of everyone around her, and often helped resolve conflicts simply by helping people understand how others truly felt. One day, Jake found Lissa standing in their garden on Earth, looking at the flowers she had planted years ago. They had grown tall and strong, creating a beautiful space filled with colors from both her homeworld and his. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, putting his arm around her waist. "I am thinking about how strange life is," she replied. "My mother sent me away because she thought I was worthless. She married me to you to get rid of me. She expected me to fail, to disappear into obscurity on a primitive world. Instead, I found everything that matters: love, purpose, a true home, and now I am helping to reshape the entire empire. Do you think she regrets how she treated you? I do not know if regret is an emotion she is capable of feeling, but I think she understands now that she was wrong. Not just wrong about me, but wrong about many things." Jake kissed her temple gently. "Her loss became my gain. I got the smartest, kindest, most amazing wife in the galaxy." Lissa smiled and leaned into him. "You are biased. Absolutely. But I'm also right." Sophie ran up to them, excited about something. "Mom, Dad, I have been thinking. If I can help 2 species understand each other, maybe I can help more. There are so many other civilizations in the galaxy. What if we could bring them together too?" "That is a big dream," Lissa said. "But good dreams should be big," Sophie replied. "You and Dad showed me that when people work together, amazing things happen. Grandmother showed me that even someone who seems set in their ways can change. So why not dream about bringing the whole galaxy together?" Jake and Lissa looked at each other and smiled. Their daughter had inherited the best of both their peoples and added something uniquely her own: hope for a better future. On the Zinthari homeworld, Queen Vareth sat in her private chambers looking at a holographic display. It showed Lissa, Jake, and Sophie in their garden on Earth. They looked happy. They looked like a real family. The Queen reached out and touched the hologram gently, a gesture she would never make in public. She thought back to the day she had decided to marry her youngest daughter to a human diplomat. She had thought it was a clever solution to an embarrassing problem: get rid of the useless daughter while appearing diplomatic. She had expected Lissa to fade into obscurity, forgotten by everyone including herself. Instead, that decision had changed the course of history. Lissa had not only survived but thrived. She had found her true abilities and used them to benefit both her birth people and her adopted people. She had shown the Zinthari that their way was not the only way, and that cooperation could be more powerful than conquest. "I was wrong," the Queen said softly to the empty room. "I thought you were the useless one, my daughter. But perhaps it was I who was useless, trapped in old ways of thinking, unable to see potential when it stood before me. You have taught this old ruler a difficult lesson. The true wisdom sometimes comes from those we least expect. That strength takes many forms, and that love and understanding can bridge even the vast distances between the stars." She closed the hologram and sat in silence for a while. Then she began composing a message to Lissa. It was time to tell her daughter something she should have said years ago. That she was proud of her. That she had been wrong to cast her out. That Lissa had proven herself to be not useless but perhaps the most valuable member of the royal family. Back on Earth, Lissa received the message. She read it 3 times, tears running down her face. Jake found her sitting at her desk, the message still displayed on the screen. "What's wrong?" he asked with concern. "Nothing is wrong," Lissa said, wiping her eyes. "For the first time in my life, something is completely right. My mother has apologized. She said she was wrong about me. She said she is proud of who I have become." Jake hugged her tightly. "It's about time she figured that out. The rest of us knew it all along. It is strange. For so many years, all I wanted was her approval. I wanted her to see me as worthy. Now that I have it, I realize I no longer need it. I know my own worth. You helped me see it. Earth helped me find it, and our daughter reminds me of it every day. But it still feels good to hear it, doesn't it?" "Yes," Lissa admitted. "It does." That evening, they had dinner with several other couples, both human and Zinthari. Mixed marriages were becoming more common now that the 2 species were working together closely. The gathering was noisy and cheerful, with children of both species and several hybrid children playing together. Sophie sat with the other children, telling them stories about the different worlds she had visited. She was already planning the future, imagining ways to bring more species into the alliance her mother had helped create. Jake watched his daughter and felt amazement at how much had changed. He had been selected for this marriage because he was expendable. A soldier turned diplomat who could be sacrificed for political gain. Instead, he had become part of the most important family in 2 civilizations. He had helped prevent a war and build a bridge between species. And he had found love in the most unexpected place. Lissa looked around the room at all the people gathered there. Humans and Zinthari, former enemies now becoming friends. She thought about the long journey that had brought her here. From the unwanted princess to the wife of a human to the mother of a bridge between worlds. Every step had seemed difficult at the time, but each one had led her toward something better. "What are you thinking?" Jake asked, noticing her contemplative expression. "I am thinking that time has a way of revealing truth," Lissa said. "When my mother married me to you, she thought she knew the truth. That I was useless and you were primitive. Time has shown her how wrong she was. But more than that, time has shown everyone that worth is not determined by power or position. It is determined by what you do with what you have been given." "That's very wise." "I learned it from a human," Lissa said with a smile. "A human who showed me that kindness, patience, and understanding are worth more than all the mental powers in the galaxy." Years continued to pass. The alliance grew stronger.